Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello and welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast. I am your host, Angela Gennari. Today, we are speaking with Megan Miller, who is a professional speaker, creator, and host of Attention to Intention podcast and self-proclaimed intentional living expert. Thank you so much for joining us, Megan.
Oh, Angela, I am so happy to be here. I love this community you're building and the conversations that you're having. It's amazing. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I think you're going to give so much value to our listeners today with everything that you're about to tell us. So I want to introduce Megan because she is so incredibly impressive. And I'm just in love with her topic because we are just not having this conversation enough. So Megan Miller is a professional speaker, creator, and host of Attention to Intention podcast, and on a mission to help high-performing, go-getting professionals detox off the drug of achievement. Over the past 15 years, Megan's laser focus on climbing the corporate ladder resulted in a successful career as a sales executive in the hospitality industry, managing a portfolio of 150 hotels and $1 billion in revenue. Raised by a single mother in rural Pennsylvania, inflicted with a speech impediment and feeling like she had to fight for her seat at the table, Megan clawed her way to the corner office. And when she landed there, she realized she was an empty, unfulfilled, and addicted to the drug of achievement. After realizing she was living in a lonely, dark world focused on hustle and achievement, she made a choice to get brave and get still and start using the power of intention to live a more inspired life. This laid a foundation for helping high-performing, go-getting professionals stop living to make it to Friday, sleepwalking through a robotic nature, and start living with inspiration and fulfillment and connection to your most trusted advisor, yourself. So very impressive. Thank you.
You know, it's so, as you read that back, I think to myself, oh my God, I don't even recognize that person. You ever have that?
All the time.
Where you never even take a moment to recognize how far you've gone in your journey. You're just always focused on the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't do that enough. We don't look back and say, wow, I did that. And I'm going to be very transparent with you, Megan. You are talking to a very self-proclaimed type A driven ENTJ, win at all costs.
I know you. I see you. I am you, my girl. That's why we are spiritually connected.
So I am excited for what you have to say because I think I could use this lesson myself.
And I think we all could. It took me to be down in the dumps, the deepest, darkest despair to really figure out there was another way to live.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And to your point earlier, Angela, these are the things we don't talk about.
Right.
And so I'm just so excited to dig into it with you.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me, we have a very similar past, raised by a single mother, absentee dad, so where does this come from? Where have you really kind of found your journey in all of this? And, the childhood traumas from, I don't know where this stems from. Is it that we're trying to make our dad feel bad for leaving us? Is it that we're trying to make our mother proud? Is it that mentality of, I never want that to be me? Where does this come from?
I love that you started with this question, my friend, because at least for myself, looking back on my own journey, I was so quick to not want to go back there. Right. If your family was anything like mine, we didn't talk about anything.
Oh, no, never.
Never. So you stuffed it down. And that was my MO through life, to stuff it down. If it was uncomfortable, don't deal with it.
Yes.
So when I began this journey, it was interesting to me to realize that I had to really dig back through the layers of the muck and the myrrh and things that I ran away from for all of these years. And it all dialed back to my childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of things I never dealt with. So absentee father. And I think, and I'd be curious your take on it. after I gave myself the courage to really lean into those feelings, dealing with abandonment made me think, well, I don't need anybody. I'm going to take care of me.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
that began down this journey of never letting anybody in, building my walls up, taking care of me. And the first thing that gave me that validation that I was worthy and I was good is what I hung on to. And that was this hotel sales job.
Yeah.
And so then it just bred that addiction of things that I never had in life growing up, feeling like I was worthy enough. You know, I was a chubby kid from Central PA, single mom who worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our head, speech impediment. Like I was so desperate for my place in the world. And when I found that, man, I hung on and it became my laser focus for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
So to your question, I think it really came down for me, like just never feeling like I found my path or my people or people that understood me. I would see the girls with both parents and I was so jealous of that. My mom had to work 2 jobs, so she was never really around. And I was just so desperate for attention. And I never knew how to give myself that sort of love, which made me need to get it from the outside world.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that on every single level, because I think so much of my childhood was spent saying, you know, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. You know, I'm not going to be like, I'm going to be the one who is in control of my destiny. Nobody's going to walk out on me again. Nobody's going to do this, you know. And my mom was always very much like, never depend on anybody else. You can do everything yourself. And I mean, she's in the back alley behind our house. You know, we lived in downtown in York, Pennsylvania, and we lived next to an alleyway, and she would be back there changing her own oil. And she was serious about she can do anything herself. And that's kind of how I was raised. And so it's hurt me in some ways because it's very hard for me to depend on somebody else. And then if they disappoint me in any way, I've completely eliminated them from my life. Like the whole abandonment thing is one factor, but then there's the whole factor of disappointment, right? So we can't deal with disappointment well either.
Are you ready for another universal moment?
Please.
I am from Central PA.
That's amazing.
As you said, York, for those listeners that might not know Central PA, York is very close to where I grew up. So we were just talking earlier before we hit record of these little serendipitous moments. And check, here's another one.
And that's amazing because everybody always says, you know, nobody understands what Central PA is, but like Pennsylvania is not Philadelphia and Pittsburgh only. Can we just be clear about that? They are on opposite sides of the state and everything else is Central PA. So,
you heard it here first. Anyone who wants some PA knowledge, we can give that to you.
We can. We can. So, you know, I'm so fascinated by this topic because as I'm reading through it, I'm like, does she know that this is me? Like all of this overachiever, this, you know, drug of achievement, like, and it's just one of those things where it's so hard to step back and say, maybe this is a problem. Maybe I should be easier on myself. And I am so hard on myself. And I imagine you are too. And so, you know, stepping back and just giving myself grace is one of the hardest things to do. Why do you think we have such trouble with that?
Oh God, because we're never trained how to talk to ourselves. We never have that education or the toolkit or the language to understand these conversations that go on with the demon that lives in our mind.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So that demon that lives up there, that roommate, whatever you want to call it, if you are not trained or taught how to have that, it can paralyze you.
Yeah.
And it can hold you back from all of these things in life. Like we will do more for others than we ever would ourselves. We forgive others easier. We show up for others better. We will sacrifice ourselves at all costs for others. And we're never taught how to have that with ourselves. And I think when you start to do these little micro steps that I would love to talk to you about when you're ready to dial into that, I found that it allowed that voice, that demon in my mind to get quieter. and a voice that I never listened to, which was my intuition to get louder.
Oh, interesting. I love it. Okay. So talk to me about these micro steps, because when you're talking about showing up for yourself and you're saying do it in micro steps, what does that mean? What does that look like?
I thank you for this question. I love this because we are a world and a culture that loves to give buzzwords, right?
Yes.
So self-care is all over the place. Self-care,
Right.
self-care, self-care. Well, really, what the world likes to label it as is getting the manicure, getting the spa treatment, doing the bath. And are all those things great? Yeah, absolutely. They are if you can do those things. But what I mean by taking time for yourself, which is the first micro step, it's just these small little things you do every day that changes the conversation in your mind. And what I mean by that is, for instance, getting up when the alarm rings.
Yeah.
Not hitting the snooze 10 times, not keeping the phone by your bedside or your nightstand table. That was a game changer for me because I'm not scrolling then social. I'm not checking the email moments before I go to bed and wonder why I can't sleep well.
Right.
The temptation is taken away from hitting the snooze. That's what I mean by making time for you, getting up, keeping the first promise to yourself. Another thing, Angela, that was huge for me because I didn't have the language. Like I said, I didn't have the toolkit to understand all of these emotions that were built up inside of me, was writing.
Okay.
So what I would do is spend 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes, just pen to paper, freeing the thoughts from my mind and just putting them onto pen to paper. How am I feeling today and why? And I wouldn't even reread it. It didn't even need to make sense. Like there were times I caught myself censoring myself and thinking, I can't write that. And then I would think to myself, if you can't be honest with yourself, Megan, who can you be honest with?
Absolutely. So true. So true. And I think we do that a lot, right? We lie to ourselves. No, it's fine. I feel fine today. I don't feel fine. I need to not be, in 50 meetings today. I need to just be sitting in my backyard.
Yes. And that
is
okay. You are not a failure.
Right.
If you need to hit the pause,
Right.
Listen to your body.
Absolutely. 100%, 100%. And, we talk about burnout. So, when you were in the hotel industry, what happened to give you this perspective? Where were you when you were saying, I can't do this anymore? I need a new perspective on life.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I'm sure you can look back on your life and see these building blocks that you never saw in the moment, because in the eye of the tornado, it never seems like there is anything on the other end of it.
Sure, absolutely.
And for me, it was one of those moments that brought me to my knees. And it's those moments that really lead the way into something great if you look for it.
Absolutely.
So I was about to sign this offer letter for this job that I worked over a decade for. I thought in my mind it was the missing piece, right? Like you always deal with stuff on surface level. So I thought, I get this job. This is going to fix everything. And I can only think of it as divine intervention, or the universe, or whatever word you want to use. I almost had a moment as I'm about to sign this offer letter where I rose above myself and I saw my life like a movie screen.
Yeah.
And I was horrified at what I saw. I realized for the first time that I was $20,000 in debt because I thought the latest thing would fulfill me.
Right.
It never did. I was in a loveless relationship. I was binge drinking every chance I got because I hated the silence.
Yes.
And I cut myself off from my friends and family because I thought, I don't want to hear how great their life is while I'm barely hanging on.
Yeah.
So I was in this alone cocoon, barely hanging on to life. And then that Christmas, my ex-boyfriend got me 2 Christmas gifts, and the one should have been a sign. It's funny. You remember the good Christmas gifts and the bad ones.
Right.
And the first one was anti-aging cream. If you can believe it.
Oh, gosh.
That should have been a sign, Angela. That should have been a sign. And then the second one, and now I'm going to age myself when I say this, but it was a Tony Robbins box CD set that like folded out.
Okay.
And as I listened to that CD, like it was jock jams that summer, I was so desperate for something. It made me realize, Tony's words hit me and made me realize that the only person that was in control of my life, it wasn't the job. It wasn't what I thought my boss wanted. It wasn't my family situation. It wasn't my ex-boyfriend. It was me.
Yeah.
And the only person that was going to get me out of it was me.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Yes. So then what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you turn down the offer?
Well, I did take the offer.
Okay.
I did take the offer. But this is where the really hard stuff comes in, because it's easy to point the finger at anybody else and say, well, it's the job. Nothing ever works out for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's this, right? Like it's easy to blame everybody else, but it's really hard when you have to dig in and do the work on yourself, because you're the common denominator in all this. You can leave the job, but you're going to go to the next one. You can end the relationship, but you're going to go to the next one. So you need to do the work on you. And that's where the really hard work began for me.
That's amazing. Yeah. So I agree. And, when you say you're the common denominator, it's so true. What people aren't realizing when they look at everything in their life is the common denominator of all your failures is you. The common denominator of all of your successes is you. So own what you need to own to get where you want to be. But too many people blame their failures on everybody else and their successes on themselves, and then wonder why they have more failures, right? Because you're not owning what you did in those things. And so, it's so important that we start taking accountability for all aspects of our life. And, when you're talking about looking back and having these conversations with yourself, what you're really saying is, I took accountability for who I am and where I am. And it was time to own that.
Yes. I love that. So true. So well said.
Yeah. So I agree. So you talk about the darkest moments become those moments of breakthrough. And I think this happens so many times. I mean, people who go through addictions, people who go through divorce, like those are your breakthrough moments, right? That's your time to pivot and say, I can keep going down this track and I can kind of see where this is going to lead me, in a pretty bad place, probably. Or I can pivot, and it's choosing to pivot that makes all the difference.
Oh God. Yeah. And it's scary as all hell.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because as humans, we want, well, at least 90% of us want the two main things: certainty.
Yep.
We want to be guaranteed what's on the other end of that.
100%.
We want to make sure that we feel significant.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so scary to make the leap, because you're going in the deep end and you have no idea what's on the other end of it. And if you'll be successful, we're so fearful of failure that we let it just paralyze us.
Absolutely. So how do you start detoxing off of that drug of achievement that you talk about? How do you do that?
So it's the little things.
Okay.
It's the little things. Like we are cultured to believe that it's the big things.
Yeah.
So you think you don't like your job, you want to quit your job. You want to move, you want to end the relationship. It's dry January. It's the cleanse. Like, it's, right? We think it's these huge things.
Yeah. They all think it's these buzzwords. I'm just going to go gluten-free. I'll just do this. It'll change everything in my life.
Everything.
It'll fix all my issues.
Right. And we want the fix now, and we want it in the package we want, and we want it in 48 hours.
Yes.
Well, what I found, what really helped me with these micro steps was to, one, make the one commitment to myself, right? Keep it. Yeah. And then two, like in the morning when I would spend the 4 minutes or 5 minutes just journaling. And I have the journal for your listeners who want it. I have the journal process exactly that I've used for the past 7 years on my website, megan-miller.com. Get it, please.
Yes.
Please. So I would do this process in the morning, and then I would keep two promises to myself. Okay. One was, how can I show up for somebody else? So it would be something as simple as texting a girlfriend and saying, hey, I'm just thinking of you. sending the colleague a note and saying, you really killed that presentation yesterday.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Oh my God. I'll tell you what, Angela, it gave me such a high.
Yeah.
A high that I used to get from the email or from closing the deal or from fixing the thing. I replaced that by showing up and doing something for somebody else.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that so much.
Oh, and all it takes is a minute. And I will tell you, you will show up differently in your day and your relationships will change too. Yeah. So there's that. And then the second thing I did, and it sounds so simple, but like I said, it's the simplest things that make the biggest difference. It was taking 10 minutes in a day to do something that made me happy.
Oh yeah. We forget to do that, don't we?
Right. Right. Yeah. Fun. Isn't that something? And I think it's just when you infuse those little moments of happiness into your day, you show up differently.
Yes.
You read the emails differently. You show up in the conversations differently because you've given yourself that moment to just feel inspired and connected by yourself. And you're not putting all of that weight on your job to feel every aspect of your life. So for me, that was, taking 10 minutes to get back into writing. Like I always loved to read and write. I always carried a book around as a kid, and then corporate culture got a hold of me. So it was taking that time to write. Or I would say, if you always loved photography as a kid, taking 10 minutes and taking the camera outside for a walk around your neighborhood. Or it can be something as simple as maybe lacing up the sneakers and going for a 10-minute walk around your neighborhood. No phone in hand, just you and nature, and give yourself just that free moment to connect with your thoughts.
Yes,
like that can be powerful.
Well, and at this, I'm 45 years old and I'm at that age group where some of my friends are kind of becoming empty nesters and they're talking about, oh, now I have time to do this and now I have time to do that. And I'm like, you had the time all along. You just didn't prioritize it. Right. And so one of the things that I tell myself and I tell others all the time when somebody says, oh, that person's, we just didn't connect because we're both busy. We're both this, we're both this. I'm like, no, everybody has time in their day. How they prioritize their day is what makes a difference. Like everybody has the same 24 hours. Some people are running multiple companies. Some people are, single parents. Some people are raising a family. How you prioritize your day and whether or not you make yourself a priority is the difference. You always have time. We all have the same amount of time. But if you don't give yourself that, that time to be happy and to do things you love to do, then you're never going to squeeze it in. You're going to squeeze it in when you're retired. You're going to squeeze it in, later on in life. Enjoy life now.
I love that. What was such I think there were many gifts over COVID.
Yes.
And for me, like you couldn't hide anymore from the shit that you've been running from for so long, right? Like you couldn't go anywhere.
That closet you need to clean.
Right. The thoughts for me, it was the thoughts in my head. Like I had to deal with it. And one of the things I realized is I got a high from being busy.
Yes. Yep.
I would sit with my husband on Sundays and go through our calendar. And I would be like, and I'm here and you're here. And then we're meeting here and we're doing here and we're doing and it gave me a high, almost like it made me feel important and validated that I was all these places. And I would always be, anyone who asked me, I'm busy. Oh, I'm busy. Girl, I didn't even have a chance to go to the bathroom today. Like it was a badge of honor.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And it's that validation. It's that, that maybe this comes from when we were, younger. Maybe this is a childhood trauma of the, am I not worthy? And now you are worthy and you're in demand by all these people, and that's maybe how we're getting that validation.
I love that, Angela. I never thought of it like that, but that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. This drug of achievement, man. She's a hard one to kick. She's a hard. Just listen, I've been on this journey for 7 years. And that's what I would tell your audience.
Yeah.
Angela and I can sit here and talk about our stories, and which we are so happy to do. But just know that wherever you are in your journey, it's just that, a journey. And this all takes time.
Absolutely. So, what advice would you give to 18-year-old you setting out on your journey? Because, I mean, you've come so far, when you're 18 years old and you think you know everything, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh my God, I would have a long talk with her. There would be,
Listen.
Oh, there are many things I would want to say to her, but man, I think the first thing I would let her know is it all turns out better than you could have ever expected.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
everything you are looking for, you have inside you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because I feel like what you were saying in the very beginning, how, as soon as I do this and as soon as I get that, and as soon as I can check this box, then it'll be better. Then this will happen. Then I can be complete. And there's always something, right? There's always something else, some other achievement that you need to get in order to feel complete.
Are you a book reader by chance?
I am. Yes.
There's this great book that I just finished. It's called The Gap to Gain by Dan Sullivan.
Okay.
And as you're talking about this, it just made me flash to the book. And he talks about how we are culturalized to think it's the next thing. So you get the 3,000 square foot house, then you want the 6,000.
Yes.
You get the nice car, then you want the luxury model.
Uh-huh.
Right? You can afford the $20 bottle of wine, then you want the 50, right? Like it's this ladder that never ends, and it's you versus you. And how we never take a moment, it's not recognized, it doesn't get enough airtime for you to really stop and look at the gains. Look at all you have done.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and we were saying this earlier today too, that, we never sit back and give ourselves accolades for like, look what I did. Look what I accomplished, and all you can think of is, but I haven't done this yet. And I haven't done that yet.
Oh, and you know what? And I love that you said that. So my mind just flashed too. You ever have this? I'm notorious for doing this. Anybody says to you, I love that outfit. Oh, it was on sale.
Oh yeah.
You look
all the time.
Your hair looks great. Oh, I didn't wash it.
Yeah.
Like you are so quick to want to discredit when anybody says anything nice about you.
100% of the time, all the time. Yes. Or, hey, I love your car. Yeah. Thanks. It's a gas guzzler. It's like you can't take a compliment without immediately discrediting the person. And, you're really discrediting them, right? Like you're telling them you don't know what you're talking about. Really. I mean, when you think about it, somebody has gone out of their way to give you a compliment. They're trying to be nice. And you've just told them, you don't really know what you're saying.
Yes. So a goal of mine this year, and I have not done very, very good at it. I am trying. It's a progress.
Yeah.
Is when someone says that to me, just say thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And move on. Like, I just, these things that we don't think about, but I think when you become aware of them, which is what I love that you're doing with this community, is creating awareness on these ways that we discredit ourselves and we don't realize it. So when you become aware of it, then you have the power to change it.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. So what inspires you, or who inspires you?
That's a great question. I would say that I look for inspiration every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I truly believe that what you look for in life, you find.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely.
And there was so much in my life that I would think, why does this happen to me? Nothing ever works out for me. Of course, this is my luck. Why do I have to fix everything? Give it to me. I'll handle it. And of course, then I would find things to support that narrative. But when you look for the good, you find the good. And so one of these things with this 5 minutes with myself in the morning that has expanded is to just take some moments in the morning to write out some things I'm grateful for. And I know we all talk about a gratitude practice and yada, 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 but there's so much science that supports when you just start your day with 3 things that you're grateful for, how you find more good throughout the day.
Oh, yeah.
So, for instance, today with the inspiration of a girlfriend of mine had to have a tough conversation with me yesterday. I was sending out this video message for this business, for a piece of business. And I sent it to her to look at, and she sends back to me, that wasn't that good.
Oh, wow.
Better. Yeah. And so, of course, Angela, I'm pissed off. And I'm
right.
like,
you're like, how dare you?
How dare you? How dare you?
Right.
And I went, and of course, you'll appreciate this, type A-er. Then I think to myself, you suck, Megan. Like, why didn't you get that right? Well, what was on the other end of that after recording it 5 more times is she was right.
Yeah.
I could have done better, and I did. So I found inspiration in the courage that she had to have that conversation with me, because that's not easy to do, to be truthful with someone.
Right. It's not. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, we do that. I think a lot is, we get offended by criticism instead of looking at it as a gift. And if criticism is delivered in the right way, it really is a gift. And the person is having the courage to say to you something that you need to hear. So, some criticism is just mean-spirited and it's just trash. You disregard it. But the rest, there really is some truth in it, right? And so you want to take that step back. And, like you did it 5 more times and you said, I'm going to get this right. And you did. And had she not said that and you put it out there and, now the whole world is seeing something and you're like, I could have done better. I wish somebody had been honest with me about that.
Yes. I once read this quote, and it was something along the lines of, don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Ooh, I like that. That's really good.
Yeah, that
really
stuck
good.
with me.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, as women, we give our power away all the time. So, we were just talking about that, when people give us a compliment, it's my hair wasn't washed today, whatever it is, it's nothing. And I think as we're building our career, we do that all the time because we want to be a team player. We want to be liked. We want to give everybody else accolades. And then, in our mind, like, oh, it was really the team. And then you want the team to step up and say, but she did a great job. And then they don't, you're like, yeah, okay, I missed the opportunity. But we give our power away all the time, spouse, husband, kids, coworkers, teammates, whatever it is. Tell me about a time that you gave your power away and then another time that you stepped back into your power. And then what was the difference between the two? Why did you do it differently?
I think for me, for the longest time, and I still struggle with this, but the imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
Like, oh God. So I would sit in these rooms. Now, Angela, I had every reason to sit in that room. I had this 15-year career where I did these incredible things, but I would sit in these rooms with these people and I would think, I shouldn't be in this room. What am I going to contribute?
Absolutely.
So, right. And I would have these ideas, but I would hold myself back because I would think to myself, well, I can't say that. I'll sound stupid. Mm-hmm. They'll think I'm stupid. So for me, what really held me back was my mindset.
Yeah.
And it was the conversations I was having in here with myself. So that really started to change for me when I would make time for myself to have that conversation with myself, free write, make the promise to myself, and then do it. I started to feel more courage to speak up. So, for instance, beginning this movement, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because I had this 15-year corporate career. So that was my identity, right? I was Megan Miller with this hospitality company.
Yes.
And as I started to, and this is like where the real mind F's come, because you're like, I know this doesn't make me happy, but if I don't have this job, then who am I?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I had this. So this was a long journey to the courage to build this movement and put it out into the world. But I just had this inner knowing. I could not fight it. And it was this gut whisper, almost like the universe was slapping me upside the head and was like, dummy, listen to me.
Yeah.
And I walked into that office and I said to my boss, who I've had a great relationship with, and she's been a great supporter. And I said to her, either I go part-time, we do some sort of consultant opportunity, or I'm done.
Yeah. Wow. That's brave.
Oh, and it was scary. I had no plan B. I had no plan B. But I thought to myself, I have got to do this and I will figure it out because I always have.
Yep. Jump off the cliff and the parachute will appear, right?
Because I'll tell you this, you figured out everything else in your past. Yeah. And you'll figure everything else out in the future. And when I did that, it was like, while I was terrified, it was like this explosion of just excitement in my body. Like, Meg, you got your own back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it all worked out. So they came back and said, you've been good to us. We want to be good to you. We'll move you to a consultant role. So it all worked out as it always does. So that's what I would tell your listeners that are listening right now, and just have that inner gut whisper that knows that they were meant for more.
Yeah.
Have the curiosity to lean into it and the bravery to action on it. One little micro step at a time.
Oh, that's so powerful. Very, very, very powerful. I love it. So tell me about some of the obstacles that you've had. I mean, I know you've had to come, I know that things open up when you're meant to be on a path, but there's always obstacles, right? And so when those obstacles happen, what do you do? Do you say, you know what, this isn't meant to be? Or do you overcome them? And at what point do you say, I can do this regardless of what's coming at me right now?
Oh God. Oh my God. There's so many obstacles.
Yeah.
As you're asking me that question, I look back on all of these struggles I've had in my life. But here's what's really interesting. When you allow yourself a moment to really look back on the building blocks, and now I can see that it all led me to this place that I was meant to be, which is not easy to do in the moment. And a story on that. So I just married my husband in September, almost a year ago, 38 years old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. First marriage. And I remember when my last relationship ended, I was in my mid-30s. All my girlfriends were married, having kids, doing the things. I think in your 30s, it becomes a comparison roller coaster.
Absolutely.
And here I thought I was a loser because I was in this little 900 square foot apartment. They all had these big, nice homes. I could barely keep food in the refrigerator. And my last relationship ended. And I remember being on the side of this major highway, 76. Yeah, I'm sure
I've been there.
Been there. And I remember, and I remember sitting there just sobbing, thinking that my life was over. And why can't these things work out for me? And I'll never have a relationship. And right around that time, I had heard Tony Robbins actually say that he was in a very similar situation, and he took the time to write down what he wanted in a partner, who he wanted to be, and what he wouldn't tolerate. And I thought to myself, I never did that. I was always with the first person that would look at me twice.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, okay, I'll be with you. And so what I did, Angela, is that night I went home and I was scribbling on this journal. And I thought to myself, I am going to take a moment for me. And I feel confident that what is meant will show up. Well, wouldn't you know, a year later, I am introduced to this man who second date comes to my apartment. In the bathroom, I had the little journal. He reads it and he comes out and he says to me, this man you're looking for, it's me. Aww. And it was to a T. And that is my now husband.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love it.
So that's just a tangible full circle moment of here I thought this was the end. And it was truly just the beginning.
Oh, that's so amazing. So I did something similar. So perhaps mine will come eventually, because the last relationship that I had, I had just tolerated a little bit more than I was willing to. I just was done. I was just done. I realized that. And so I wrote this whole long mantra, right? Like, I will never tolerate X, Y, Z. And I'm looking for this. And so, if I've got dated a little bit since then, and every time I look at that mantra, I'm like, yeah, no, not it. Next. I am sticking to the mantra.
I can't wait for you to tell me, Meg, I found him. And it was all due to the mantra. I can't wait because it will happen.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like now I read it and it's like, yep, that's what I'm waiting for. I am waiting, happily waiting, because I am done tolerating what I don't deserve. So,
and I think for me too, I'd be curious your take on this because I was never taught this or had the conversation around it. I really had to feel good about me first.
Right.
Before, like I look back and I was so desperate for a man's attention. And I'm sure this comes back to the childhood, right?
Absolutely.
I was so desperate for it that I would sacrifice myself at all costs, even if I knew I wasn't being treated well. I was so desperate for the love. And when I finally thought, well, I need to take a moment to connect with me first and get to know me, did I change how I showed up?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I think you're absolutely right. Does it come from childhood? 100%, because, I think in the very, I'm divorced, but when I was married, I think I married, based on who is not going to walk out on me and who is not going to do this and who is not going to do that. And so I had all the knots covered, but I didn't have but I really want this and I really want that, because I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew what I didn't want. Right. And so I didn't marry the person I wanted. I married the person that I knew covered all I don't want this, And so for me, it was a really huge learning opportunity, but one that I had to go through, because I had to have that moment of, I married the person that I didn't want to be like my dad versus the person that was truly meant to be for me. Right. And so, it's boy, I tell you, the childhood traumas, they really come back at you, don't they?
And just when you think you kicked them, they come back.
I'm fine. No, I'm fine.
While you're curled up in fetal position in the corner. I'm fine.
I'm just fine. Leave me alone. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, this has been so much fun, but I need to know, what do you wish more people knew?
I wish more people would be brave enough to put the mask down and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And have these conversations that you and I are having here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's very powerful. Like for me in my journey, I thought it was easier to hide behind the mask, live in a cocoon, and tell the world it was fine, I was fine, and never really have those deep conversations.
Yeah.
But when you're able to be brave and put that mask down and share what you're struggling with your tribe, not only do they start to show up, you realize you're not alone in this journey, and it gives you the bravery to tap into certain parts of yourself. And it just builds this connection. And the happiest people I know, and it's been scientifically proven, are those that are connected and have a strong social ecosystem around them.
Absolutely. And, we were talking before the podcast that our commonality is struggle. It's not success, right? So our commonality is struggle. So the more you can be open and honest, the more connection you can have, right? Because if you can be open and honest and say, here's where I struggled, and somebody else is like, oh my gosh, I felt that way too. I thought I was the only one, right? Like you never know. You never know.
Yes. And it's typically those people that you think have it all together.
Oh, yeah. Because they're just good. They're good at masking it.
They're good at hiding it.
Yes. They're good at masking it. Some of my best friends in my whole life, I looked at them as, they've got it all together. They've got it all together. But we're best friends because we don't have it all together. And it was that discovery of the obstacles, the challenges, the fears, the insecurities. That's what brought us together, not, celebrating every achievement. It was, I've been there too. We can do this. We've got this. So yeah.
I love that.
So, well, this has been so much fun, Megan. I really have enjoyed our conversation, and I knew we'd connect, and this would be great. But I think you bring so much value to our audience, and I'm so appreciative of your time today.
Oh, and I'm appreciative of you. Thank you for building this, the courage to build it, the courage to be vulnerable week after week and share your story. I am so happy that we had a chance to meet and connect and share our stories and be a part of this beautiful tribe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. And I know that this will not be the end of our connection, but I just wanted to thank you. So thank you to everyone who's listening. Be sure to join us next time here on the Pretty Powerful Podcast, and make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next show. And if you want to learn more about Megan Miller, please visit our website at prettypowerfulpodcast.com, and you will be able to link directly to her. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time. And until then, step into your own power.